What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fellas YouTube channel. My name is Tyler Plath, and we are doing a little bit of a different video today. We are doing an NFL mock draft. We are a little under 3 months away from the NFL draft, and during this offseason, for us, we are watching the film. We are watching all these rookies showcase their talents in the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl that have been taking place this week. We will be paying close attention to the combine, private workouts, all of the sort, getting some familiarity with our offensive and defensive players. And there's really no better way to really familiarize yourself with the players in this draft than with a mock draft. So I will be in control of all 32 teams. Uh, Officially mock draft 1.0 of the year. We will be doing more of these as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft, but then we will also be doing some dynasty content for you where we dive even deeper on our quarterbacks and our running backs and our wide receivers and heck, even tight ends. As much as tight ends can be a pain to talk about sometimes, we will be diving into those players as we get closer and closer to the draft. So make sure you're subscribed and have that notification bell turned on if you are intrigued by the NFL draft, if you participate in dynasty leagues and you want to know more about these rookie wide receivers and running backs, all of the sort, this is your place to be. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And with that, let's just get on into it. Bears have the first overall pick, and everyone knows that this is the pick that is going to be the most talked about. Do the Bears trade Justin Fields? Do they take Caleb Williams? Do they trade back? I think all the signs are pointing to Caleb Williams being the pick here, and that the Bears trade Justin Fields. Shane Waldron is coming in. They've really reshaped this whole offense. And yes, you could make the argument that they're wanting to give Fields another shot, but I think what it comes down to, personally for me at this point, I believe that Caleb Williams is a better player and a better quarterback than Justin Fields is right now. So taking Caleb at 1, it resets your organizational timeline a little bit, and then you can trade Justin Fields, and you may not get the first round pick that you would want typically from a quarterback, but getting something back for Fields is more important than getting nothing. So Caleb Williams is the pick there for the Bears at 1, and pick 2. I think this is pretty chalk. I think it's going to go Caleb Williams and Drake May for Washington. They also need a quarterback, and I've seen some weird comments. Drake May was a backup for Sam Howell in college. Yes, because Sam Howell was a senior and Drake May was a freshman. Like it rarely ever works out that you see a true freshman start over a senior when, it is quite I shouldn't say a disparity or a gap in talent, but it doesn't make sense. It's a true freshman coming onto a college program, and Sam Howell had been the established starter for 3 years. So Drake May is the pick there. And here's the thing with Drake May. He's improved so much in his time at North Carolina. He is most definitely a top 3 pick in this draft. There's no other way around it. Patriots here at 3, and this is also a very fascinating pick because there's a lot of different things that New England can do with this pick. They could go with Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe they want to go a little bold and they could go Malik Neighbors instead. I don't believe that, but you never know. They could go Joe Alt and build up the offensive line a little bit. They could maybe reach down the board, according to PFF at least. Take Jaden Daniels, maybe. Personally for me, this is going to be a Marvin Harrison Jr. pick. Now, I don't hate the idea of Jaden Daniels at 3, and actually I would completely understand it and probably actually say prefer it to be Jaden Daniels, but I also understand just getting probably the best player in the draft at this point in pick 3, right? With Caleb Williams and Drake May off the board, just go get the best guy on the board, and that would be Marvin Harrison Jr. Arizona at 4, they could also do they also have a ton of choices and ton of different ways that they could go, but we're going to go with Malik Neighbors here at 4. Joe Alt makes a ton of sense. Fashanu could also go here. But I think Neighbors gives them a bit of a playmaking ability on the outside that they are lacking right now. And Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown is, I believe, a free agent. So currently it is Michael Wilson, Rondale Moore, and Greg Dortch. Those are the 3 wide receivers. So you need some help in the wide receiver room. And heck, even if you do bring back Marquise Brown, having a Malik Neighbors and Marquise Brown 1-2 punch, I think there are worse wide receiver pairings to have than that. Chargers here at 5. I am a big fan of Joe Alt. I think all pro ceiling with the tackle. Um, but at the same time, I, Brock Bowers is generational, generational, and you could be without Keenan Allen, you could be without Mike Williams next year. So then your pass catchers are Quentin Johnston, which we need to give him at least another year. Give him another year. You have Josh Palmer, Jalen Guyton, if he sticks around. I think he's a free agent too. Like getting some kind of help for Justin Herbert in a pass catcher makes more sense than probably an offensive tackle at the moment. And you can find solid offensive linemen in drafts down the road in future years. You can't find a Brock Bowers every year. So I think Brock Bowers makes sense. And here's the other thing. Brock Bowers is a Jim Harbaugh guy. Harbaugh is going to fall in love with Brock Bowers. Giants here at 6. We're going to go Joe Alt. There has been talk that the Giants aren't necessarily ready to kick Evan Neal inside guard. I think most Giants fans, and I would say, just do it. Go get Joe Alt, best player on the board at this point, all pro ceiling. Again, it's not the most exciting pick, right? I could also see him going Jaden Daniels, but I think ownership is a little too stuck on Daniel Jones to just do a quick pivot like that, especially after an extension that they signed him to. Joe Alt, you could do Rome Odunze because they also could use some receiver help. I think 6 is a little high for Odunze, even though I personally am a big fan of Rome Odunze. We'll get to him in just a little bit, but Joe Alt there is the pick for the Giants at 6. Tennessee at 7, offensive line, especially with Brian Callahan coming in. You got to protect Will Levis if you want to do what you want to do in your offense, which is just slinging the ball around. You got to protect Will Levis. Fashanu is the pick there for Tennessee. That's pretty straightforward for me. Atlanta at 8. This is where Jaden Daniels will go. And I will say this about Jaden Daniels. I think he's got the widest range of potential outcomes when it comes to the draft. He could go as early as 3. There's maybe an argument that he could go as high as 2, even to Washington. But then he could fall to Atlanta at 8. He could fall to Minnesota at 11, Denver at 12, New Orleans at 14. If New Orleans wants to get rid of the Derek Carr experiment already, but that's at least a 10 pick, range that Jaden Daniels can go in. So Atlanta gets their quarterback of the future. No more Taylor Heineke. No need to rely on Desmond Ridder. Raheem Morris, new head coach, gets his guy in Jaden Daniels. Bears at 9. This is the Rome Odunze pick. Rome Odunze paired up with DJ Moore and Caleb Williams. Oh boy, that is lethal. That is dangerous. That sets up your offense for years down the road. Jets here at 10. The theme of the offseason really needs to be, there was a bombshell of a story, I will say, just the other day about the culture of the Jets. And it's a fascinating read because it's pretty doom and gloom when it comes to the Jets. So really what you can do to really kind of salvage anything with Rodgers going into next year, protect him, right? Make sure that he is healthy so that you give yourself the best chance of winning. You're going to do that with Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State. Dude is a mauler in the run game. So even, you've got a Breece Hall, right? Who is, he's pretty good, right? So get him a mauler, of an offensive lineman to lead the way for him. That makes too much sense for me as well. Vikings here at 11, and this pick really needs to be defense. Personally, as a Vikings fan, the defensive line, the interior defensive line needs a lot of help, but I don't really know if there's one that is worth the number 11 pick. Right. You see Johnny Newton here, who's the 10th ranked player on PFF's big board. I don't mind that, but I'm a bigger fan of Dallas Turner here for the Vikings. Dude is an instant starter. Yes, the Vikings have the flexibility to bring back Danielle Hunter on an extension. But the other part of this is Minnesota did not pressure the quarterback at all. They designed so many exotic blitzes and all that kind of stuff. They were bottom 8 in pressure rate. So getting a guy like Dallas Turner, right? You can put him in passing downs, right? And just say, go get the quarterback. And he can certainly go do that. And the other thing is these edge rushers, Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, Leatu Latu, is going to be a fascinating conversation because all of them have different athletic profiles. All of them then have different ceilings as well, but some of them are more polished. Like Leatu Latu right now in the Senior Bowl is just destroying all of the competition in 1v1s and stuff like that. So look, I'm personally, I you really can't go wrong with any of the edge rushers at 11. And I think Dallas Turner probably just has a higher ceiling and is more ideal for this Vikings defense. Denver at 12, they're going to go quarterback. They're going to go Bo Nix. The conversation that I'm hearing, at least with Bo Nix, is that he could really go as high as 11. And then you can pretty much fit him to any team that needs a quarterback after pick 11, right? So starting with Minnesota, then Denver, Vegas also makes sense. Maybe if you want to develop him a little bit, you could, the Rams, maybe the Steelers are done with the Kenny Pickett experiment. You could go there. Somehow, some way he falls to Tampa at 26. That makes sense as well. But Bo Nix to Denver, at least, I think makes a ton of sense with Sean Payton getting a point guard that can scan the field, stretch it if he needs to, and they get their quarterback. And there's been talk that they want to go up and get their like they want to go get one of the top 3 guys. They are kind of tied down in cap, though. They don't really with cap space, with draft picks, like it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for Denver to go up and try to get one of the top 3 guys. I think any team can say that they want to get one of the top 3 guys, but it has to make sense for the franchise. And trading up to do so, in my opinion, doesn't. So getting Bo Nix at 12 is exactly what they are looking for right in a quarterback, and they don't need to, send away any future assets or anything like that in order to do so. So Vegas here at 13, this is where defensive interior is actually going to make sense for me. Byron Murphy out of Texas. Oh my goodness. That brother can absolutely play ball. Byron Murphy, I would love Byron Murphy at 11. I just think Capital's a little rich for 11. But Vegas also needs some interior help on the defensive line. Getting some pressures, from the interior. It's not always Max Crosby then. There was another edge rusher that kind of came on late towards the end of last season. I think Malcolm something. You've got talent on the outside. Let's make it difficult for quarterbacks from the interior, right? In a division where you're going up against Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and Bo Nix, then too. Let's send the dogs. Let's go get the quarterback with Vegas there. 14 for the Saints. We're going to go Jared Verse. Cam Jordan's getting up there in age. They need other pass rushers outside of him. Jared Verse makes a ton of sense. You could also say Leatu Latu. I think Verse, higher ceiling, just better athletic profile. 15 for the Colts. We're going to go Cooper DeJean. Gus Bradley's defense is very zone heavy, and arguably the best zone corner, if it's not Cooper DeJean, is actually probably Quinyon Mitchell. But I think Cooper DeJean offers some versatility. He can play deep safety if you need him to. I think Cooper DeJean at 15 for the Colts is really a match made in heaven. Seattle here at 16, they need to build up the interior of their offensive line. And Jackson Powers Johnson does exactly that. You can play him at center, but you could also play him at guard. That the versatility is huge for Seattle moving forward, and getting a guy that is just a powerhouse. The dude is just rocked up, built up. It's going to be tough to beat him in a 1v1. And when you're going up against the 49ers, you're going up against the Rams, who could potentially get an interior defensive lineman, something like that. Seattle needs some help, and Jackson Powers Johnson is an easy solution to that problem. Jacksonville here at 17. They could go with an edge rusher to pair up with Josh Allen. I don't think they do that. They did just take Trayvon Walker 2 years ago. So yes, we are kind of that timeline is getting kind of close to when it's maybe time to move on. I don't know, maybe find a replacement, but I think right here, right now, it's a Terrion Arnold pick. You need major, major help in the secondary. Pairing him up then with Tyson Campbell, I think is a very good pairing, is a pairing that sets them up for success down the road. And especially then in a division, right, where you are going up against Anthony Richardson, who could also get better, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, who knows what Brian Callahan can get out of him, getting, some improvements in the secondary could be really, really beneficial for Jacksonville. Cincinnati here at 17, or excuse me, 18. This is Amarius Mims out of Georgia, who played right tackle for Georgia. He's got one of the higher ceilings of offensive linemen from what I've seen so far. Jonah Williams, our current right tackle, is slated for free agency. This is a simple just replacement for that. Rams here at 19. This is Leatu Latu. I think Latu, the pass rushing package that he has, the skills and talents that he has, he's so polished already. I really, really believe he could be top 15. The only concern is the athletic profile and then the medicals. He has had a history with medicals. So those could be the reasons why he falls in the draft, but the talent is top 15, probably even top 10. But like I said, because of those reasons, he's going to slide here to 19 to the Rams, and they get their edge rusher for the future. He's going to just feast in the Rams defense. Pittsburgh at 20. We're going to go with Nate Wiggins out of Clemson, getting some more secondary help in an aging room a little bit. Wiggins plays with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, a bit of swagger. That's Pittsburgh. That is Pittsburgh. So I think that's a great match there. Miami here at 21. We're going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. This one really comes down to just kind of not many needs for the Dolphins at this point. You could look defense. Johnny Newton could also be a great pick there, but Brian Thomas, is your then future replacement for Tyreek Hill once he retires, because we're coming up on that. The guy he's got the size that I think is kind of lacking in this wide receiver room for Miami. Yes, they've got speed with Waddle and Tyreek. They need a little bit of size, and I think Brian Thomas can do that for them. Philly here at 22. James Bradbury is a free agent. You're not going to play Avonte Maddox outside. Go get Kool-Aid McKinstry, probably the safest, or I should say one of the safest players in this draft, defensive back out of Alabama, tested and proven, and to the point where like quarterbacks refuse to throw it his way in this past season. They just refuse to go his way, and that's why Terrion Arnold, his stock boosted up dramatically this year, because he was tested so often, and more times than not, he made quarterbacks look foolish and and he was just in wide receivers' pockets more times than not. McKinstry for the Eagles makes a lot of sense. I thought about JC Latham, right? Lane Johnson's getting up there in age, but the fact is, like, that offensive line is, pretty solidified in terms of the, contracts and all that kind of stuff. Darius Slay's getting up in age. James Bradbury is a free agent. Getting McKinstry is some needed reinforcement in that secondary. Houston here at 23, we're going to go Johnny Newton. I think a staple of every DeMeco Ryans defense is a solid interior pass rush. You've seen it with DeForest Buckner, seen it with Eric Armstead. Johnny Newton in Houston is going to take that DeMeco Ryans defense to another level. Dallas here at 24. This is a JC Latham pick. I'm not the biggest JC Latham fan, but I think this makes the most sense. You've got Tyron Smith, who's 35, 36, pending free agent. So you could play Latham right away at left tackle, but you could bring Tyron Smith back for a 1 year, maybe 2 year deal even, and let Latham kind of develop a little bit and learn from Tyron Smith. I think that could be very, very beneficial for a guy like JC Latham, who is inconsistent and a bit raw. That's a great landing spot for him. Green Bay here at 25. We're going to go with Quinyon Mitchell, secondary. You still got Eric Stokes. Jair Alexander is still there, but you did trade Rasul Douglas. This is really just about developing your corners. And I think a lot of Packers fans would be like, really, another corner? But I think the thing is, with Quinyon Mitchell has probably one of the highest ceilings out of all DBs this year. So pairing him up then with Jair Alexander, right? Let's say you can fully develop him. You can lock up pretty much any wide receivers. I mean, that makes me scared as a Vikings fan, right? With Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. knowing that you're going to go up against Jair Alexander or Quinyon Mitchell is uh, kind of frustrating because that takes away our two best weapons. Um, anyway, Tampa here at 26. This is also going to be a corner pick because they need it. Tampa's secondary did kind of play better towards the end of the year, but you need some more reinforcements. Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia, steady Eddie as they come, and that's kind of what Tampa needs. Obviously, you would love to have a guy with a higher ceiling, but Lassiter is just sticky, man. He is always in the pocket of wide receivers. He's been tested going to Georgia, big games, all that kind of stuff. Lassiter makes a lot of sense, I think, for Tampa. Arizona with their second first round pick of the draft. We're going to go with Ennis Rakestraw from Missouri. They need some secondary help as well. In a Jonathan Gannon defense that is very, very zone heavy. Rakestraw is one of the better zone corners in this draft. I think that makes a lot of sense for them. You could also go O-line like a Jordan Morgan, like a Tyler Guyton. I think Rakestraw, though, is a bigger need, a bigger position of value that they could use at this moment. Buffalo here at 28. This is actually going to be Troy Franklin. Gabe Davis is a free agent. You're getting an aging Stephon Diggs. Go get a weapon for Josh Allen. And you did that last year with Dalton Kincaid. But Troy Franklin is a different dude. He can stretch the field. He's good after the catch. And he's got a little bit of size to him too. He's 6'3", so maybe not just a replacement, but a better player than Gabe Davis can be, if that makes sense. And again, you're getting younger with Stephon Diggs getting older. So Troy Franklin there for Buffalo. Detroit here at 29. This I thought about Jordan Morgan. Morgan's more of a tackle than he is a guard, and you've got Taylor Decker and the Penei Sewell. Tyler Guyton, he's also more of a tackle. You can maybe throw him into guard, but I think that if you're looking for interior defense, offensive line help, Troy Fontenot is your guy. Dude can play tackle. He's probably more of a guard than he is a tackle, but it's a versatility thing at that point, and getting a guy that can instantly start inside for your offensive line. That's big for Detroit. And you could also look corner, but I don't really think that there's a corner worth taking towards the end of the first round when we've, had a ton of corners go in this first round. Baltimore here at 30. We're going to go with Tyler Guyton. He is a right tackle, not so much a left tackle. He's a right tackle, which works out great. Morgan Moses is in the last year of his deal, and he is 32, 33. So you could keep him. You could let him go. Also, I think you free up around $5 million in cap space. But regardless, if you keep him, you can develop Guyton a little bit. Guyton is for sure a first-round offensive lineman. He will get his chance soon. You could also do a Jordan Morgan, but I think Morgan's more left tackle. So there's it'll be a debate for them at least, who's going to, be better down the road. You could develop Morgan from the right tackle spot. I think they don't really mess around. They just go with Guyton. Kansas City here, 31. Pass catchers. Need pass catchers. And this is probably one of my favorite picks that or pairings, I should say. Lad McConkey to the Chiefs is like a match made in heaven. Lad McConkey is, I think a lot of people will go like, oh, he's Hunter Renfrow. You can probably put two and two together why they would say Hunter Renfrow, but McConkey he's got hands, he gets open. Maybe he's not so much the field stretcher that Kansas City is probably lacking at this point. But when your quarterback is first in wide receiver drops on the year, you need a sure thing outside, and Lad McConkey most definitely gives that to you. San Francisco here with pick 32, last pick in the first round. We're going to go with Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. That just gives them some flexibility. I shouldn't say flexibility. That gives them some gives them more solid options. There we go. On the right side of their offensive line. And you don't even need to play Morgan right away. You can let him sit for a year, learn it from the right side, and then throw him in. But yeah, there is mock draft 1.0 of the first round of draft season. We're going to go Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. 3, Neighbors 4, Bowers 5, Alt 6, Fashanu 7, Daniels 8, Odunze 9, Fuaga 10, Turner 11, Knicks at 12, Byron Murphy out of Texas at 13, Jared Verse at 14, Cooper DeJean at 15, Jackson Powers Johnson, remember that name, at 16 here for Seattle, Terrion Arnold 17 to the Jaguars, Marius Mims at 18, Leatu Latu at 19, Wiggins at 20, Brian Thomas at 21, McKinstry. I feel like you got to say Kool-Aid every time. It's Kool-Aid McKinstry. It's not just McKinstry, it's Kool-Aid McKinstry. At 22 to the Eagles, Johnny Newton at 23, JC Latham at 24, Quinyon Mitchell 25, Kamari Lassiter at 26, Ennis Rakestraw at 27, Troy Franklin at 28, Trey Fontenot, there it is, at 29, Tyler Guyton at 30, Lad McConkey 31, Jordan Morgan 32. Again, that is mock draft 1.0. Feel free to drop down in the comments below who you have been watching, who you think should have been included, who did we leave out, or who should have been left out, stuff like that. Let's have the conversation going, and we will be doing more of these as we get closer and closer to the draft. So again, make sure you are subscribed, have that notification bell turned on, so you are notified whenever we are talking NFL draft stuff like this. And we will be back with a video next week, podcast next week. So until then, deuces.